The aliens hunt in packs.
Okay. How many aliens would make it a fair fight with one predator?
3. I could see a predator spearmaster keeping 2 away with a Yautja combo stick, but a third Xeno is going to be able to get close. Even if he kills it, that blood splash is going to melt right through him. It's a hard call. You'd have to plug their stats into a probability algorithm.
Yeah, they both fought Judge Dredd, which is pretty badass. Aliens fought Batman.
So did Predator. Let's not forget Superman and Batman versus aliens and Predator.
Who won?
Can't remember? Doesn't matter. You know what? I give the overall win to Predator.
Yeah? Enlighten me.
Predator has taken on Archie.
Shit, you're right. Archie's basically the top of the food chain. You think Predator's more of a Betty or a Veronica type of guy?
Neither. Gotta go with Sabrina.
Ooh, you make a good argument. I'll buy it. Predator comes out on top.
Welcome back to the channel, folks. When I first played Watch Dogs back in 2014, I had a pretty decent time with it. The hacking mechanics were fun, the Chicago setting was cool, and while the story didn't exactly blow me away, I enjoyed it for what it was. But once I finished it, that was it. I moved on, and the game never really stuck with me. I don't think it was bad, and I did enjoy replaying it last year for the channel. It just didn't leave much of an impact. So when Ubisoft announced Watch Dogs 2, I wasn't exactly counting down the days to play it. And the more I saw of it, the less interested I became. A brand new protagonist, a complete shift in tone, and a vibrant San Francisco setting that felt like the polar opposite of the first game. It looked like Ubisoft had taken everything Watch Dogs 1 had built and thrown it out the window. So I never bothered giving it a chance. That is, until now. Playing it for the channel, I finally sat down to see if my assumptions were right, and I'll be honest, Watch Dogs 2 surprised me. It's far from a masterpiece, and I have some mixed feelings about the story, but I actually grew to like the new cast of characters, and the gameplay improvements genuinely impressed me. In fact, I'd even go as far as to say Watch Dogs 2 is on par with, or maybe even a little better than the original. So let's dive in and see what Watch Dogs 2 does differently, what it does better, and where it stumbles in comparison to the original, and if it still holds up almost 9 years later. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, as it really helps out the channel. And I'm hoping to cross 100k subs this year.
Consider this your DedSec initiation, Retro. Your mission, should you choose to accept it, is to bypass Bloom security doors and get inside. Then find and erase your personal CTOS profile.
Watch Dogs 2 takes us from the rainy streets of Chicago to the sunny shores of San Francisco. Right away, it's clear that Watch Dogs 2 is going for a very different vibe from the first game. Gone is the brooding, trench coat-wearing, revenge-driven vigilante, Aiden Pierce. Instead, we got Marcus Holloway, a young, charismatic hacker who actually seems like he enjoys life. He's friendly, outgoing, and a bit of a dork, but still cooler than your average nerd. If we're ranking him on the nerdy to cool guy scale, he lands somewhere between Steve Urkel and Stefan Urkel. After his initiation into the group at the beginning of the game, Marcus and his new buddies in DedSec will work towards exposing CTOS. Short for the Central Operating System, it's an advanced citywide network run by the shady tech conglomerate Bloom, collecting data on every citizen under the guise of public safety. While the first game commented on the dangers of data collection, widespread surveillance, and how it could be exploited for nefarious means, that discussion fell to the wayside to focus on Aiden's quest for revenge instead, which I felt was a wasted opportunity. And I'm glad Watch Dogs 2 explores that idea more thoroughly. Thanks to some backdoor dealings with some other tech companies, and Aiden's actions in the first game, Bloom has expanded the capabilities of the CTOS. On top of just about everything being online, and connected to the system a la Mega Man Battle Network, CTOS 2.0 has been strengthening the Bellwether, a powerful program and predictive algorithm. It supports profiling, media manipulation, corporate collusion, and even organized crime. The massive amount of data feeding it allows Bellwether to manipulate the global stock market, predict crimes before they happen, and even manipulate people through the media. Realizing the threat the system represents, Marcus and the other members of DedSec have made it their mission to expose Bloom and the dangers of the CTOS. However, they don't treat their mission with the seriousness you would expect. And I'll be honest, while I like the game's lighter tone, it does come at the expense of the story, which feels very unfocused throughout, but I'll circle back to that. Before moving on, let's briefly talk about DedSect and Marcus's new hacker buddies. DedSect is an underground hacker collective dedicated to exposing corruption, fighting against corporate surveillance, and disrupting systems that exploit personal data. They operate outside the law using cyber warfare to challenge powerful institutions like Bloom and the CTOS, believing that technology should serve the people and not control them. In Watch Dogs 1, DedSec was a secretive militant organization operating from the shadows. They didn't really trust Aiden, only interacting with him through Clara. Their motives are often unclear, and while they occasionally helped Aiden, they had their own agenda, making them feel more like a wildcard faction than true allies. In contrast, Watch Dogs 2's DedSec is louder, more rebellious, and far more public-facing. Instead of operating as a shadowy hacker syndicate, they feel more like a modern-day digital activist movement, using viral campaigns, hacking stunts, and social media to rally support. It's refreshing to see DedSec break away from the typical underground hacker collective trope, but their in-your-face, millennial-driven personalities can be a bit much at times. They avoid full-blown, "how do you do, fellow kids" territory, but their style isn't going to be for everyone. And if I'm being honest, the trailer showcasing DedSec was primarily the reason why I didn't buy the game at launch. But to my surprise, the characters weren't as cringy as I expected them to be. A little corny, but not too bad. So who our new besties will be spending the better part of 20 to 25 hours with? Well, first up is Sitara, who is the lead strategist and resident rebel artist. She's the one who handles DedSec's branding, making sure their message is as visually striking as it is impactful in order to gain the support of the masses, who are unaware of what Bloom is up to. While her fashion sense is questionable, she looks like her closet threw up on her. I like Sitara. How she's not too overbearing or annoying, or as overly preachy as I thought she was going to be. And you know what? I'm gonna say it. Sitara's an underrated video game babe, though she's no Clara. Rest in peace, my sweet tattooed angel. Next up is Wrench. Oof, if there's one character that's gonna make or break your experience with Watch Dogs 2, it's definitely Wrench. The most chaotic member of DedSec, Wrench is a masked, hyperactive hacker who treats destruction like an art form. While his LED mask is meant to play into his over-the-top persona, it becomes clear later in the story it's also a way for him to cover up his insecurities and how he's truly feeling. Despite his over-the-top nature, he's careful not to let things get out of hand, and he forms an instant bromance with Marcus over their shared love of shitty movies and geeky pop culture. That said, he's the ultimate love him or hate him character. If you enjoyed his unfiltered energy and friendship with Marcus, he's a highlight of the game. But if you find his constant jokes and outbursts annoying, you'll probably wish he'd shut up and let someone else talk for once. Next up is Josh, probably the most realistic take on a hacker this game has. The quietest but most efficient member of DedSec, Josh is the group's coding prodigy, capable of breaking through firewalls and manipulating networks with ease. Unlike the louder personalities in DedSec, Josh is reserved, analytical, and lacks some social skills due to being on the spectrum. But he's deeply loyal to his friends and has the patience to deal with their antics. And finally, there's Horatio, the only DedSec member with a day job. Horatio works at Noodle, the game's version of Google, giving him an insider look on Silicon Valley's corporate culture. While he believes in DedSec's mission, and even seems to be the one who recruited everyone into the San Francisco chapter, he's also the most underwritten member of the team. Horatio barely appears in missions and rarely gets significant dialogue, making him feel more like a background character than a core team member. This lack of development undercuts a pivotal moment involving him later in the game, which I'll get to. Next, let's dive into the combat and hacking mechanics. Combat has taken a considerable step up in difficulty due to a combination of factors. First, Marcus is pretty squishy in comparison to Aiden, and it doesn't take much to bring him down. Next, your enemies are far more competent. Once alerted to Marcus's presence, they won't blindly charge him. They'll make use of cover when shooting and try to flank his position when possible, or just flush him out of cover by chucking stupidly accurate grenades. It's also far more common for groups of enemies to have a few guys who will call in backup when Marcus is spotted. So if you don't take them out before they finish calling in reinforcements, you'll quickly get overwhelmed. On top of all that, enemies are more durable compared to the first game, so even the basic guards will soak up several bullets before going down. That's not even getting into the heavily armored variants that feel like unstoppable juggernauts, though you'll mostly encounter them towards the late game. So firefights can be considerably tough if you try to brute force them by just shooting, especially in the early game when you won't have enough money to buy and 3D print the better guns. Luckily, Watch Dogs 2 has expanded your options to allow more freedom in encounters. First, Marcus comes equipped with a non-lethal stun gun he can use to knock out enemies, avoiding a fight altogether. Ditto, he can use melee to instantly knock someone out with his improvised weapon called a Thunderball. It's like a pool ball attached to the end of a rope that Marcus will bonk enemies on the head with to knock them out, or if he sneaks up on someone, he'll just choke them out instead. So unlike the first game, you have the option to play the entire game as a pacifist and can avoid killing anyone. It's more in line with Marcus's personality, as he's not really the type to gun down innocent guards just doing their jobs, unlike that psycho Aiden. That said, taking the stealthy, non-lethal approach to combat doesn't make things easier. Your stun gun's rate of fire is rather slow, he doesn't have the longest range at first, and most importantly, anyone knocked out will eventually wake up or be woken up by their buddies who discover them. So the pressure is on to complete your objective before the guards you took out become a problem. Also, some enemies can't instantly be knocked out if they're aware of your presence, or have thick body armor that requires multiple shots before they go down. Worst case, if you want to stick to a stealthy approach and avoid going guns blazing, the expanded options to hacking will help you out. After completing the initiation test, Marcus will gain access to DedSec's hacking tech. As Marcus completes operations for DedSec or helps out people around San Francisco, he'll start to gain followers. In a creative take on the typical leveling system, your followers essentially function as experience points, giving DedSec access to their phones to power Marcus's abilities. Once he's amassed enough followers, he'll level up and receive several research points. Those points can then be spent to improve the strength and fire rate of Marcus's stun gun, unlock and improve hacks, unlock throwables like the electric shock device, an explosive device, increase the botnet of his phone needed to use those hacks, and much more. Watch Dogs 2 has streamlined your abilities, making them much easier to unlock and use. It's also done away with needing to craft hacks. Instead, the hacks you've unlocked are usable at all times, as long as you have the required botnet cost, with your better hacks and throwables on a cooldown between uses. So now you don't have to worry about restocking your arsenal before going on a mission. There's a lot more in the environment you can hack to distract and incapacitate enemies too. On top of returning hazards like electrical panels and steam pipes, you can hack electronic gates, security robots, and even remotely control cars. Hacking enemies' cars shakes up car chases too, as you can force them to drive in the wrong direction and crash instead of relying on traffic lights and steam pipes to disable their cars. So you can end a chase much faster than you could in the original game. You can hack enemies' cell phones and radios to distract them, which also prevents guards from calling for reinforcements for a few seconds too. With so many more hacking options, you'll rarely need to engage in direct combat, making stealth a reliable option during operations. Hell, Marcus doesn't even need to step into hostile areas to complete his objectives, thanks to the jumper and quadcopter. Functioning similarly to T-Bone's RC car in the Bad Blood DLC, the jumper can hack from a distance, sneak through vents, and scout an area, allowing Marcus to retrieve access keys, disable security systems, or unlock doors to let him move further through a level. While the quadcopter is a flying drone that basically functions as a mobile camera, letting you survey the area, act as a bridge to hack devices too far for Marcus to tap into directly, and with an upgrade, the quadcopter can drop explosive and shock devices on enemies to take them out. Both devices are also used in network bypassing hacks, as the networks that need you to connect data streams are much larger and sometimes spread out far out of Marcus's view, requiring the jumper or quadcopter to get a better look at where everything needs to connect. You'll unlock the jumper pretty early into your playthrough, but you have to pay a big chunk of cash in order to unlock and print the quadcopter. While the quadcopter is arguably more versatile, it can hack certain devices like routers or CTOS control boxes, as they require a direct connection to be hacked, which only Marcus and the jumper can do. Due to that, several operations and levels are built around using both gadgets in conjunction with Marcus's other abilities. And on top of all that, you can manipulate different factions into taking each other out. For example, you can lead the police or another gang into a restricted area, guarded by a different faction, and the two groups will start shooting it out. In a more direct way, you can unlock hacks that mark an enemy as a gang snitch, or put out an APB on them. After a few moments, whichever group you reported your target to will arrive to take them out. While similar in function, the key difference between the two abilities is that the gangs will use lethal force, while the police will usually just arrest your target. All of these changes contribute to Watch Dogs 2 feeling less restrictive than its predecessor. You aren't forced into gunfights, you don't have to waste time crafting hacks, and you have multiple ways to complete every objective. You now actually feel like a true hacker, with stealth being more viable, hacking being more dynamic, and combat being much more challenging if you rely on traditional gunplay. The sequel encourages creativity rather than brute force, allowing for more player freedom. While a combination of the right skills and arsenal can trivialize encounters in the late game, there's still a decent challenge throughout due to strong enemies and Marcus being so squishy.
Get the fuck out of here! You tagged the Golden Gate Bridge? It's all over the news!
Told you.
This is the kind of exposure we really need. The student has become the master.
I was always the master.
Before diving into the story, let's briefly discuss our new setting and how San Francisco measures up as an open sandbox. The original game, Chicago, was a dense, rainy, and oppressive city, designed to fit the game's more serious, revenge-driven story. Its streets were full of crime, corruption, and NPCs whose lives were constantly dictated by the CTOS surveillance system. It felt like a city that was suffocating under the weight of technology, where Aiden's hacking tools made him feel like an urban ghost, slipping between the cracks of an unfeeling metropolis. San Francisco, though, completely different energy. In Watch Dogs 2, the dark, brooding atmosphere of Chicago is replaced with bright skies, sunny beaches, and colorful city streets. The Bay Area is lively and vibrant, full of NPCs having actual conversations, street performers putting on shows, and a world that feels far more fun and reactive than before. The Golden Gate Bridge, Silicon Valley, Oakland, and the famous winding streets of San Francisco are all here, even if the map isn't a perfect one-to-one recreation of the real city. While not to scale, Ubisoft has done a fantastic job capturing the spirit of San Francisco, even if certain districts are shrunken down or positioned closer together. It's what I picture San Fierro would have looked like if Rockstar brought it back for GTA 5. San Francisco is a city that begs you to explore, not just because of its beauty, but because it's filled with weird, offbeat, and entertaining side content. While the core of the game is still about hacking, Watch Dogs 2 removes a lot of the tedious mechanics from the first game. Gone are CTOS towers, which required Aiden to climb high places to unlock new parts of the map, or control centers you need to infiltrate in order to use your hacks in a given district. Instead, San Francisco is open from the start, letting you explore freely without having to clear out zones like the typical open-world game. Unlike the first game, where you could only fast travel to Aiden's safe houses, here you can fast travel to most points of interest, like your DedSec hacker spaces, clothing stores, car dealerships, and even directly to the side activities you've unlocked. While I like the convenience, especially since the game loads you back into the map so fast, I actually found myself driving around as often as I could, taking in the gorgeous sights, exploring, and looking for things to do or collect. The clothing shops around the map give you a hefty amount of options to customize Marcus's look, a huge step up compared to the options you had for Aiden, which basically amounted to buying recolors of his standard outfit. Next, the map is dotted with various collectibles to find, like paint jobs for your jumper, quadcopter, or any cars you own, hefty money pickups, or valuables you can sell at a pawn shop, along with the research points needed for purchasing skills, and key data from specific districts needed to unlock the better abilities in your research tree. So Watch Dogs 2 incentivizes you to engage with the city if you want to unlock all your abilities. The game doesn't just hand you research points and key data though, as they're often located in restricted areas patrolled by gangs, the police, or guards for tech companies, effectively functioning as their own mini operations as you need to figure out how to get around enemies to reach your prize. Along with the collectibles you can find, there's some optional side activities you can do too, like e-kart races, which is basically Watch Dogs' take on Mario Kart. You can complete drone challenges by doing quadcopter races, or you can LARP as an Uber driver by picking up and driving people around the city in Driver San Francisco, named after the Driver game of the same name. Man, I really need to get around to covering the Driver series for the channel. Along with CTOS towers, criminal profiling and fixture contracts are also gone. In Watch Dogs 1, Aiden could scan NPCs to see their personal information, often leading to optional crimes you could intervene in, while fixer contracts had you assist local hackers in going after criminals, as a decoy for them or just steal some important data they need. They weren't terrible side activities, but they did get repetitive after a while. Instead, Watch Dogs 2 introduces side operations, which feel far more integrated into the world and give you an actual reason to engage with San Francisco's people. These are essentially side quests, where Marcus helps NPCs with hacking-related jobs that are separate from the main plot. They offer some interesting stories with unique objectives that avoid them feeling too similar to each other. They can be done at any time, will often have multiple parts to them, and occasionally unlock a new side operation after completion. And like the main story operations, will reward Marcus with more followers so he can level up faster. I'm not going through all the side missions, but I'll quickly list some of the more interesting ones I did. The first one you'll unlock is A High Price to Pay, which has Marcus intervening to prevent some millionaire from buying the exclusive rights to local rapper Bobo Drake's new album. A very obvious reference to when Pharma Bro and overall shitty human being, Martin Shkreli, bought the sole copy of the Wu-Tang Clan's album Once Upon a Time in Shaolin. Paint Job has Satara challenging Marcus to graffiti various billboards around the city, each new round of vandalism increasing in difficulty as you have to figure out a way to ascend the various buildings to reach your target. It all culminates in Marcus leaving his mark on the most eye-catching location in San Francisco, the Golden Gate Bridge. The side operation Another Side has you helping out Satara again, this time dealing with some creeps bullying her niece Cindy, who's a live streamer. And Ubistolen has you hacking into Ubisoft's San Francisco studio to find and leak the trailer for their upcoming game, Pioneer. A game which is yet to see the light of day and might actually be cancelled now due to all the issues the studio has had in the last few years. Well, that's a bummer. The game actually did look kinda interesting. The trailer doesn't show a lot, but it does give off some serious Cowboy Bebop vibes. So it could have been something special depending on what the gameplay loop was. Future Fuzzy here. I'm adding in another side mission I learned about while editing. Unlike the other side missions, this one's hidden and not marked on the map. Seemingly an ARG at first glance, you initiate it by finding and photographing one of 4 strange markings with a cipher under it. Once you take a picture, an audio file plays a recording from a documentary crew that were investigating the urban legend of the Shuffler, some kind of digital ghost or Slenderman type of being that drags anyone that finds it into the void. You need to find all 4 markings, each one playing an audio file from a different member of the documentary, all terrified and slowly getting picked off by the Shuffler. To continue the ARG, you need to use CTOS scan while looking at the markings to discover a hidden symbol at each one. You have to arrange the symbols in a certain order, and then head back to the hackerspace to use the cipher decoder Josh drew up to decipher each symbol to a corresponding number. The 4-digit number you get corresponds to a certain time of day. In my case, it was 1:49 AM. Fast forwarding time by sleeping on the couch in the hackerspace, you need to go to this specific spot and stand in the alley at the time the cipher designated. You have to have your camera open while facing the north wall of the alley, and once it's time, you'll hear a shuffling sound and need to snap a photo immediately. If you did it correctly, Marcus gets sucked into the void by the Shuffler. Some trippy shit happens and he'll wake up with a copy of the Shuffler's outfit beside him. At first I thought this was a really elaborate ARG, but if you equip the Shuffler outfit, it changes Marcus's melee attack, and now he'll use magic or something to crush people and kill them. So the Shuffler really is some kind of demonic entity or ghost. No clue why he spared Marcus when he killed the documentary crew, and hundreds of other people apparently, but who knows, maybe he just likes the kid. Honestly, absolutely amazing questline hidden in the game. It's up there with the Vampire Saint Denis and Red Dead Redemption 2, and the Murder Mystery in GTA 5 for top tier hidden content. Oh, and before I forget, you got a few multiplayer events on the map you can join in on. Like the first game, another player can invade your session trying to hack you, so you need to hunt them down before they take off with your data. You can accept a bounty to kill another player in his play session, or just team up with someone so the two of you can tackle an objective together. These events hand out a decent amount of experience for completing them, so they're a great way to grind and unlock abilities faster in the early game. Thanks to all the activities and operations available, the collectibles to find, and the freedom you're given to explore it, San Francisco is one of the most enjoyable open worlds Ubisoft has ever made. It almost matches the excellent open sandboxes Rockstar Games has perfected in the GTA series, and it's genuinely fun to drive around and get into trouble long after you've beaten the game, or cleared most of the side content. I think Watch Dogs 2 serves as a great alternative for someone looking for that GTA experience. However, the game's one big blemish is its story.
So, am I in?
Welcome to DedSec. I'm Satara. This sweetheart is Josh, aka Hot Sauce.
Yo, your hot sauce? Yeah, man, I loved your frat house hat. Real talk.
Thanks.
This weirdo's Wrench.
The needs of the many.
And this Casanova is Horatio.
What's up, brother?
What's up, man? It's the crew, huh? Took y'all long enough to come get me. Shit.
If I'm being honest, I wasn't sure how to approach this game's story. I couldn't cover it the same way I did the first game because that story built up more naturally. Aiden's journey had a clear progression, he followed leads, uncovered secrets, and as the mystery unraveled, the stakes kept escalating. New areas and factions were introduced at just the right time, making the whole thing feel like one big unfolding conspiracy. But Watch Dogs 2 is way more open-ended, and that freedom makes the story feel more disconnected. Big events happen, but they don't always build on each other the same way. Since you're given some leeway in what order you want to tackle missions, moments that should feel huge sometimes don't hit as hard because there's no steady momentum driving things forward. The game leans into its open world structure, which is great for gameplay, but it comes at the cost of having a story that really feels like it's building to something. So the story section won't cover every operation in depth. Instead, I'll bounce around from the more interesting and important events. After spending the night partying with his new DedSec pals, and drunkenly throwing his phone into the ocean, Marcus wakes up hungover in someone's apartment. He barely remembers what he did last night, but from the looks of it, he hooked up with some random girl. My man. Satara will call Marcus on his new phone and tell him to get his shit together, then head for DedSec's HQ, the hackerspace. When Marcus arrives, he's greeted by the others who are ready to start fighting big tech. After the others walk him through the basics of being a part of DedSec, and he completes a tutorial on side operations, Marcus will speak with Wrench to start his first operation, Cyber Driver.
Cyber Driver.
Hit him with the code flurry, Chip. Jimmy Siska is... Got no choice, kiddies. Follow me, or die. Devin Von Devin.
We gotta get these hackers somewhere safe.
They aren't hackers, Devin. They're just script kiddies.
Hey, the car answered.
This ain't your mama's smart car. I think next time we're gonna need a higher firewall, pal.
Cyber Driver.
Action hero badass. Talking car, admit it, Josh. The car is cool.
I like schlocky action films as much as the next guy, but I don't know, this Knight Rider knockoff looks pretty mid to me. Marcus, however, sees an opportunity for DedSec to spread their name, and start bringing in a bigger following. Marcus will hijack the Cyber Driver car, and together with the crew, they'll give it an upgrade and a new paint job, advertising DedSec. Then he'll drive it around the city, getting into a wacky police chase that ends with Marcus destroying the car, recording the whole thing for a viral video. Their stunt gets DedSec the attention they wanted, with tons of followers pouring in. It also got the attention of Dusan Nemec, the Chief Technology Officer of Bloom. The group came to his attention when Marcus hacked into Bloom's servers to clear his CTOS profile. Marcus also unknowingly bumped into Dusan already, as he was a random jogger he met during the bonfire party. He wants to avoid going after DedSec for now, as he sees an opportunity to exploit them for Bloom's benefit. So I'll get this out of the way now, but Dusan is so underwhelming as a villain. Like, I don't expect the head of a tech giant to look and act like a roided out monster who eats babies. So his hipster appearance is appropriate, and doesn't really bug me. Except for his beard. It just looks off. Like it wasn't textured properly, so it just looks like Dusan has a bunch of shit rubbed on his face. The guy just lacks a commanding presence. He never feels dangerous, or like DedSec is going to have an uphill battle taking him down. Hell, half of Dusan's machinations is just him doing his job. But he's just another Silicon Valley bigwig. His role makes sense for the story, but I don't know, I need a little more from the big bad. As cliche as the first game's story was, the villains were pretty memorable. Damien, Arak, Lucky Quinn, they all left an impact, and the story made it clear that Aiden couldn't carelessly go after them without a plan. Shit, Arak was especially memorable because the story tricks you into thinking he's a run-of-the-mill gang leader, when in actuality he was a super hacker on Aiden's level. Using information as his power, he learned about the Bellwether, found the corrupted footage of Rose Washington's death, and collected data on the shady dealings of every politician, criminal, and corporate exec in Chicago. Thanks to his ruthless nature and his heavily guarded fortress, where the incriminating info was stored, Arak was a powerful threat that the other groups and Aiden couldn't underestimate. Hell, Arak was even a somewhat challenging boss fight. Not every villain needs a physical presence or even needs to be fought in gameplay to be a good villain, so it's not like Dushan had to hop into some prototype Iron Man armor at the end of the game for a final boss fight, though now that I think about it, that would have been awesome. I just need more from the guy that isn't him doing yoga, or shit-talking the heads of the other tech companies he's working with. Show why Dushan's control of the Bellwether and CTOS makes him dangerous. Have him use his tech to lure one of your friends into a trap, or mess with Marcus's friends and family by foreclosing on his parents' house or something, threatening to ruin all of his loved ones' lives if Marcus doesn't stop his crusade against Bloom. There's a couple moments later in the game that could have been used effectively to show what a threat Dushan is, but both moments end up so inconsequential and wasted. I think Ubisoft was too afraid of anything disrupting the lighter tone they created for the game, that they couldn't come up with a way to make their big bad feel like a big bad. So the story lacks stakes and ends up feeling forgettable because of it. But like the first Watch Dogs, the gameplay is strong enough where I can overlook the weak story.
New Dawn wants to step into the ring with us. They got our recruitment video killed on all the big social media sites and threatened to sue anyone who hosts it. This is gonna cost us a lot of followers.
DMCA takedown. Annoying.
Unfortunately for DedSec, they don't get to enjoy their newfound viral fame for long. The Church of the New Dawn is striking down re-uploads of the video and threatening to sue any website that hosts it. As for what their fucking problem is, they don't want DedSec using footage of Jimmy Siska to promote themselves, as he's a high-ranking member of the church. As a YouTuber who constantly needs to navigate the minefield that is DMCA claims, and YouTube's terrible moderation system, I sympathize with their plight. And where I'm powerless to do anything against my YouTube overlords, Marcus and Satara want to strike back at the church. The plan is to talk to Jimmy Siska and see if they can get him to cut ties with the church. Oh yeah, if the idea of a New Age church with high-profile members who are exploited for money sounds familiar, that's because the New Dawn are just a thinly veiled parody of Scientology, with Jimmy Siska himself potentially being a parody of Tom Cruise or John Travolta. Also, this entire operation is referencing that time Anonymous butted heads with Scientology. Marcus will meet Satara outside a church at the New Dawn facility. She'll lead a protest to create a distraction while he sneaks in to look for info. Marcus discovers Jimmy Siska isn't in good standing with the church, and they're planning an emergency audit of him. Not like a tax audit though. They're just going to send one of their cronies to use an e-meter to lie about his thetan levels, and trick Jimmy into giving the church more money. Seeing an opportunity, Marcus will dress up in New Dawn clothes and play the role of Jimmy Siska's auditor. Sitting down with them, they have a brief discussion about what's going on, and Jimmy admits he's heard rumors of a place called the Red Room, where dissenters in the church are sent to be rehabilitated, sometimes never to return. Marcus tells him not to worry, those are just rumors, but he'll check it out just in case. Then Marcus hits Jimmy with some hard facts.
Oh yeah, man, and one last thing, man. Like, your last 5 movies have been just disappointing as shit, so act better. Alright, keep your chin up. Peace!
Alright, that got a genuine laugh out of me. Wanting to dig deeper into the Red Room, Marcus calls up his contact Miranda to see if she knows anything. She won't speak over the phone, but gives Marcus an address where they can meet. So I was kinda confused when meeting Miranda. No, not because she's trans, but because she and Marcus speak like they've already met. But this is the first time she pops up in this story, so I thought maybe I missed a cutscene or did a mission out of order. But no, she's just a friend of Marcus's family. Feels like a line of dialogue explaining who she was before meeting her would have made that less confusing. Miranda is a city councilor, and she used to butt heads with the New Dawn when she first entered into politics. She knows the church is a sham, that they ruin lives, and how ruthless they are in bearing any scrutiny of them. The New Dawn went as far as leaking videos of Miranda's transition surgeries to try and silence her, but she didn't back down. So while she's more than happy to bury those scumbags, her hands are tied, and she can't take any direct legal action against them and what they're doing, which is why she asked Marcus to meet her in the first place. Miranda doesn't approve of what he's doing with DedSec, but understands sometimes you gotta bend the law if you want to bring a cult like the New Dawn to justice. She points over yonder to a supposed education center owned by the New Dawn, but its sketchy nature and heavy security makes it obvious it's anything but. Marcus needs to sneak in and see if he can find anything useful they can use against the cult. While she doesn't have a huge role in the story and only pops up a handful of times, I really like the dynamic between Miranda and Marcus. She's the older and mature voice of reason that balances out Marcus's recklessness and naivete. Where he and DedSec believe the systems and institutions they fight against need to be completely torn down, Miranda provides the perspective that it isn't that simple. Like in the side operation involving crooked cops, she makes the point that change doesn't happen overnight, and instead of abolishing the police, they need people on the inside to fix the system from within. It's a discussion that'd be great to explore, but again, this game isn't trying to get too heavy with its ideas. So let's take down this evil cult. Marcus will sneak past the guards and steal a registry listing everyone staying at the re-education center. He also discovers that the Red Room is real, and poor Jimmy's in there being brainwashed. We'll break him out, and afterwards Marcus will meet up with him outside the New Dawn's fancy temple. Jimmy explains there's a lift inside the church that goes down to a secret basement containing Sumerian tablets that the New Dawn base their whole religion over. One long sneaking segment later, and Marcus finds the tablets, except they're fake, and easily crumble to pieces when he knocks them over. With the footage he recorded, the data on its members, and Jimmy Siska's cooperation, DedSec put together a video exposing the New Dawn, and it's mission accomplished. While the objectives and set pieces are all different, main story operations follow the same beat of DedSec choosing a shady group to go after, investigating said group for clues of what they're really up to, discovering what they're really up to, and then infiltrating their HQ at the end of the mission chain, wrapping the storyline up with a nice bow by cutting an over-edited YouTube video exposing the evildoers, telling the masses DedSec are the good guys, and of course reminding them to smash that like button, comment, and subscribe. While there's fun moments throughout, I'm not going to get into each operation. After DedSec takes down another tech company, the crew meet up at the hackerspace to plan their next move. Josh interrupts the meeting in a panic. He's discovered a hefty chunk of their new followers are dead or fake social media accounts. Someone may have been using them for their own plans. Marcus then heads to Invite, the social media company the fake accounts are coming from, in order to investigate what's happening. After snooping around, he reaches the CEO's personal computer and starts digging. Unfortunately, Marcus stepped into a trap. All the fake accounts vanish, and his profile has been added back into CTOS. Dushan then makes his grand entrance, revealing that he's behind the fake accounts and has been watching Marcus's actions since that night on the beach. Impressed with the kid's abilities, he saw an opportunity to take out the competition and prop up the effectiveness of CTOS 2.0 by using DedSec. Though now that Marcus has discovered Dushan's little scheme, he's no longer useful to him. He takes back the fake accounts, plugs the backdoor access Marcus had, and gets a warrant out for the kid's arrest. Well, shit is fucked. At least we get to punch that asshole in the face when he tries to step up to Marcus.
My man.
Oh, you think it's a fucking joke? Huh?
Do it. Roll fucking punch.
You got everybody eating out your fucking hands thinking the system's bulletproof? You can't see the people you're stepping on.
Guess what, Marcus? Guess what? The people want to be told who is good and who is bad.
Man, the world would be a much better place if you could punch every rich, self-centered douchebag right in the face. After Marcus escapes the cops and returns to the hackerspace, the gang are in low spirits after learning they were played by Dushan. Unsure of their next move, Marcus tries to put on a brave face that he'll figure something out. Skipping ahead a few weeks, and the gang decide to blow off some steam at the Swelter Skelter Festival. Or at least that's what Marcus wanted, but in reality it's meant to be one last hurrah before DedSec disbands. Which really threw me for a loop, because this whole thing with Dushan happened like around 8 hours into the game. Come on guys, DedSec is just starting to build a name for itself, and you decide to call it quits the second things get hard? Shit, at least their identities are still safe. But Marcus has an active police warrant out for him, and he's not throwing in the towel. So we gotta run around to find the gang, remind them that the power of friendship can overcome anything, and to meet up at the dragon statue for a group photo. We'll find Josh rizzing up his new lady friend Susan. Marcus tells him what's up and gives the guy his space to do his thing. Josh, handle that. We'll find Horatio hijacking the festival's DJ's garbage set to play some good music. Horatio used to DJ before joining DedSec, by the way. Don't think it's really mentioned until now, since he hasn't done shit since the beginning of the game. Anyways, we'll find Sarita painting a mural, and finally Wrench hanging out at the Thunderdome. Gathering the crew, they'll take their group photo, and then enter the hacking challenge set up by a hacker named Jabberwock. It's nothing special, just a really big network bypass puzzle. But with the power of friendship, DedSec wins and the dragon statue activates to spew fire. Then Jabberwock appears and congratulates the kids for winning, before inviting them to get fucked up.
Hey, you kids want to feed your heads? 2 ounces of sacrosanct mindfuck.
People, I am going offline now. See you on the other side.
Oh, Horatio, you good, man?
The word good has lost all meaning, my friend.
Okay, you good?
Did I forget to mention that these boomers had a little acid bath?
Josh.
It's okay, they're using hallucinogens in clinical trials for masterpiece.
Josh is feeling it. Okay, let's go find something for you to stare at.
Okay. Come on.
You're not Ray. You're Ray, Raymond Kinney Ray. I still got your old hacker zines, man. I remember reading War Driver and gearing up my 10-speed, backpack with an antenna. Shit, I even used your old root kit, man.
Fuckstay?
Yeah, hell yeah.
Remember kids, if a strange old man appears out of nowhere and offers you free drugs, make sure you take them. You don't want to look like a loser who hates partying, do you? Oh yeah, and this old guy is famous super hacker Raymond Kenny, who we met in the first Watch Dogs. Quick little refresher on who he is, but Raymond Kenny used to work for Bloom, and is one of the architects of the CTOS. He grew increasingly disillusioned with Bloom, disgusted with how they abused the system to invade people's privacy, and he realized how dangerous it was to put an entire city's infrastructure on a single system. His bosses eventually got tired of his complaints and fired his ass, forcing Ray to do something drastic to expose the CTOS. In August of 2003, he'd hijacked the system and caused a massive statewide blackout. While he succeeded in demonstrating the vulnerability of the CTOS, it came at the cost of 11 people dying during the blackout, which allowed Bloom to spin the situation, painting Ray as the bad guy, and making themselves look good by claiming they prevented him from doing worse. Ray was forced to go into hiding for several years under the alias of T-Bone, and he only resurfaced when Aiden tracked his location to the town of Pawnee outside of Chicago. Despite a rocky first meeting, the two would team up, clear Ray's profile from the CTOS, leak the info that Rack had gathered, and expose the vulnerabilities of the CTOS again when Aiden causes a blackout in Chicago. Though, Bloom just spun the whole situation in their favor again, patched the issues in the system, and launched CTOS 2.0. I loved Ray in the first Watch Dogs. He was a fun breath of fresh air compared to Aiden. His goals were considerably more noble, and he still carries the guilt of his actions leading to the death of 11 people, which is explored in the Bad Blood DLC, where he gets the spotlight and becomes the playable character. Ray is forced to confront his past when the hacker Default comes after him. His brother was one of the 11 people who died during the blackout. Mentally unwell, he was checked into an asylum for his own safety. But when the blackout happened, he escaped, and with no one able to intervene, he took his own life. It was a great DLC that explored Ray's character, and asked the question if there was any way for Ray to redeem himself for what he did, or if he even deserves redemption. It was a much better story than the main campaign, and made me wish that was the focus and not Aiden's stupid revenge quest. While I'm glad to see Ray return, I don't feel like the game uses him effectively to justify his inclusion. His first interaction with Marcus showed potential, as he questions if the kid truly believes in the cause or if he's just another idiot hacker. Once Marcus explains the CTOS marked him a criminal risk, and linked him to a crime he didn't do because it was probable, Ray sees the kid as sincere and wanting to tear down Bloom and CTOS. I thought they were going to put him into the mentor role with Marcus, train him, teach Marcus to learn from Ray's failures, make sure the kid is fighting the system for the right reasons, and warn him that he may be forced into a situation where he'll cause collateral damage in the war against Bloom. That Marcus will need to be prepared to carry the guilt of his actions for the rest of his life if it ever comes to that. While Ray does say those things to Marcus across the story, it never actually comes into play since Marcus never reaches the point where he might go too far. Ray is set up to be the mentor, but when he agrees to help DedSect, he's just another member of the gang, giving out missions, cracking jokes, dropping exposition about their target. It tries to set up some drama between Ray and Satara as she questions his motives and if he's exploiting Marcus to get back at Bloom. But it feels like it comes out of nowhere, since Marcus was already going after Bloom, and he isn't doing anything differently once Ray joins the crew. If Marcus stopped listening to the rest of DedSect and always deferred their next move to Ray, it would be one thing, but that doesn't happen, and everyone has some say in their next operation. So Satara's hostility towards Ray feels unjustified. And like she's just jealous, Marcus leans on Ray for his opinions every now and then. I'll stop harping on it for now. Like I said before, this game doesn't want to ruin the vibe. Setups for conflict are either ignored or too inconsequential to be called drama. I like seeing Ray here, I just wish he had a bigger role than just being another one of the guys. Guess it's slightly better than what they did with Aiden. One of the side operations you'll stumble on involves a human trafficking ring running out of the city. Tracking down those responsible, you'll discover that Aiden was already on the case, and he followed the traffickers here to San Francisco. Unfortunately, he got himself captured, so it's up to Marcus to free the Batman of Chicago. It's super underwhelming. You just distract the guards so Aiden can take him out and break free. You don't fight side by side to take down the traffickers or anything. You don't even meet Aiden face to face. He just gives Marcus a nod and a thanks through a security camera, and then dips. Doesn't even say a word. Like, I get it, Aiden doesn't gel with this lighter environment at all, but he's your previous game's protagonist. Do a little more with him than a glorified cameo. Have him present throughout the operation, working together with Marcus, sharing his experiences, and end it with them getting pizza or something before he dips to continue the fight. Maybe show Aiden is mellowing out, and drop his loner vigilante facade by having him humor Marcus with a selfie or an autograph or something. Like, I'm far from a fan of Aiden, but do a little more for those who do like him and we're excited to see him show up. Alright, returning to the story, Ray says they'll need to work their way up to Bloom, and suggests going after Noodle next, the company with the biggest collection of user data in the country. This is when Horatio finally joins the plot. Since he works at Noodle, he's been gathering information on how to hit them and supplying it to Ray. They need to hit the company's server farm, but he can't do it himself since he lacks the clearance. And one of his leads has been breathing down his neck, watching his every move. So it's up to Marcus to save the day again. Horatio gives him the credentials he needs to hijack a Noodle bus, so Marcus can pose as a bus driver working for the company and sneak inside. After a long, boring school bus ride picking up other employees, Marcus and Horatio arrive at Noodle HQ.
Yo, Horatio, man, I'm scared, bro.
Oh, what is it?
Don't nobody look like us.
Oh, man, welcome to Silicon Valley. Hey, what do you call a black man surrounded by thousands of white people?
What?
Mr. President?
Hey, man, they see two of us together, they gonna think we plotting.
We are plotting.
This little adventure is the only real characterization we get for Horatio. He admits to Marcus he feels out of place here, since there's only like 3 other black people who work there. Horatio sees the corporate culture for how phony it is, and the half-hearted backhanded compliments from his coworkers and bosses are getting on his nerves. I actually kinda relate with him here. That's pretty much how I felt when I worked for Apple, though mostly in my relation with my bosses and customers. Most of my coworkers were chill, and a few have gone on to be some of my closest friends years after I left that job. But don't expect the game to delve into that discussion. Can't ruin the vibe after all. But it just ends up making an already flat character feel flatter. While Horatio deals with the resident work snitch, lowest of all snitches in my opinion, Marcus will find his way to the server farm and install a backdoor into it. He then has to help Horatio avoid getting fired and arrested, since the work snitch snooping on him has evidence he's connected to DedSect, which is entirely Horatio's fault as he was stealing and sending information from his work computer to DedSect. which they discovered by tracing his keystrokes. Some hacker he is. You'd think he would have made sure to use an encrypted network or a non-company computer that couldn't be tracked to steal data. Well, whatever. We bail him out by messing with the evidence, and so they have to let him go. Mission complete, the crew goes over the data from the server farm and discovers Bloom and Noodle are secretly working together, with Noodle providing all its data in order to feed the Bellwether and improve its predictive algorithm in exchange for limited access to it. Dushan, catching on to DedSec's intrusion, decides to employ some help, turning towards the hacking group Prime 8 and their obnoxious leader Lenny.
Of course, fucking Lenny.
Citizens of the world, may I have your fucking pathetic attention? DedSec is a bunch of losers spamming your newsfeed. They pretend to be the saviors of your free will, when really, they're just some script kiddies who want desperately to be popular. It all stops now. I am going to teach DedSec a lesson. And DedSec, if you think I or can't destroy your system, well, then please allow me to introduce myself.
So I'm going to speed through some operations again. Lenny and Prime 8 declare war on DedSec, hacking their systems and trolling their operations. Confronting her, she'll only back off if DedSec makes a video admitting they suck, and Prime 8 rules. Instead, we mess with her business dealings by screwing up her relationship with the Sons of Ragnarok biker gang, and later infiltrate Prime 8's secret bunker to hack their systems and win the hacker war. Super underwhelming considering how they hype up Lenny as a threat, and it doesn't help that she's so obnoxious either. The only notable thing about the operation is that the bar the Sons of Ragnarok hang out at is playing the Hardy Boys theme. Just thought that was neat. Next, after the gang gathers for karaoke night, they find out they're being watched by the FBI. As they try to figure out what the feds want with them, Horatio suddenly goes radio silent. Afraid he might have been nabbed by the feds, Marcus heads to his last known location, but only finds his phone. Marcus hacks the nearby CTOS camera for footage, and discovers Horatio was jumped and kidnapped by the Teska's gang. Scanning one of the Teska's faces to learn the identity and address, Marcus races to save his buddy, but he's too late.
Horatio, man, I'm here, man. Hey, call 911, Josh, call 911. Hold on. I'm here, man, I'm here. Help's coming, okay? Hang on. Hold on, man. He's dead, guys. Sorry, Josh, he's fucking dead.
Oh my god, Marcus, get out of there now!
Fuck!
Kudos to Marcus's voice actor. He does an incredible job capturing the panic, anguish, and anger in Marcus's voice when he realizes his friend is dead. Unfortunately, Horatio's death lacks any emotional weight to it, since he's a flat character, barely shows up in cutscenes, and does close to nothing until the Noodle mission. And that's it. He goes back to doing nothing again until he dies. Even worse, the crew basically forget he exists after Marcus hunts down and gets revenge on the 3 Teskas responsible for his death. Horatio is never mentioned again after this point. They don't use his death to grow Marcus's character or as motivation in their fight against Bloom. The Teskas only went after him for info on DedSec, but why they wanted DedSec or knew Horatio was a member isn't explained. So Horatio's death is pointless and serves no purpose outside of temporary drama, and to pad the game's runtime with another operation and group to go after. Come on, Ubisoft. You should have just killed him off at the beginning of the game if he was going to be so inconsequential to the story. Alright, so I'm going to skip to the ending here, so here's the cliff notes of what happens before the final mission. The FBI is blackmailing and recruiting hackers. They're also working with Dushan, big surprise. The feds nab Wrench, work him over real good. We save him. Dushan tells the FBI to back off DedSec. Marcus gets Wrench his mask back, And our buddy lands a date with a cutie from the donut shop. Wrench, handle that. Next, Marcus and Ray go after the aerospace company Galilei. Marcus sneaks in and modifies a motherboard to give DedSec backdoor access. He plants the motherboard on a satellite, and when it's launched into space, Marcus gains access to Bloom's global network. Then we expose a robotics company called Titus, creator of all the security bots we see in-game, who are working with Bloom to create Ryan-control robots and military tech. Marcus hijacks a spider tank prototype to wreck up the joint and destroy its servers. That operation's actually pretty fun. It's basically the spider tank AR game from the first game. DedSec then exposes Invite is using social media manipulation with the help of Bloom's Bellwether in order to get Congressman Thrust elected. Finally, they discover that Dushan is testing the Bellwether's capabilities by letting the Chinese test it out on the global stock market. After stopping the Chinese out at sea, Dushan manages to spin the situation to his favor again. He paints the Chinese hacking the global stock market as a flaw with the submarine cables that carry telecommunication signals across the world. So he pushes Bloom's extensive satellite network as a better and safer alternative to the submarine cables. Despite spinning it in their favor, his bosses in Bloom are fed up with DedSec's antics, and demand he finally gets rid of them as a threat. Which brings us to the final mission of the game. Dushan fills Marcus's CTOS profile with a bunch of bogus crimes, making him a threat that grabs the attention of the feds and lands him on the most wanted list. Marcus won't be able to step anywhere near a CTOS camera without alerting the feds of his location, so he starts the mission by sitting on the bench. Instead, the rest of the crew moved into action, and I was hyped for a moment when I saw we were playing as the other members of DedSec, but that faded quickly when I realized the gameplay sections weren't anything unique or new compared to what we did before. You start off as Satara, who just needs to complete a lengthy network bypass puzzle in order to get a profile key and backdoor access from a laptop belonging to Dushan's personal assistant. Next, we take control of Wrench as he destroys Bloom's backup data farm. This part was a bit more fun since he has an infinite grenade launcher, and I could just cause destruction without worry. You don't get to play as Josh or Ray though. While playing as the others, Josh was printing out a bunch of You're Me masks that tricks the CTOS system into thinking whoever's wearing it is actually Marcus. He handed out tons of them to fellow DedSec members, confusing the system and allowing Marcus to step back onto the field for the final part of the mission. He'll sneak into Bloom HQ, first disabling their communications to prevent Dushan finding out what's happening, before Marcus boards an elevator down to Bloom's air-gapped computer. It's where they store all their confidential files and data. Bloom keeps it off-grid to avoid it being hacked into, which is why Marcus had to go down in person to get into the system, and bring it online, allowing DedSec to steal the information they needed to take down Dushan. Honestly, this feels super underwhelming for a final mission. Part of it's because the story just doesn't do enough to raise the stakes and build up to this final confrontation with Bloom. The other is that it doesn't feel any different than the other operations we did to take down the other tech companies. There's a shitload of guards here with intersecting patrol patterns, so stealth is more challenging, and if you're spotted, you can be overwhelmed fast. A nice challenge to end the game, but outside of briefly playing as your friends, it lacks something unique to make it stand out compared to the rest of the operations. Maybe putting the spider tank here would have worked better, giving the player a brief power fantasy as they cut a path of destruction through Bloom HQ, or some kind of hacking war between Marcus and Dushan. Marcus loses all his weapons and has to rely on hacking the environment to beat Dushan. Dushan in turn can be extremely lethal, and he limits Marcus's options each time he's injured. Think the Mr. Freeze boss fight from Arkham City. But, oh well.
What's good, homie? Marcus?
I have to say, I don't really see the win in you coming here, but... Oh, wait. Wait. This isn't some petty macho bullshit, is it?
Could you stop us if it was?
Wait.
Marcus and Ray will confront Dushan at his apartment, gloating about how they beat him, and revealing they exposed all the shady shit he's done. They say their goodbyes as the police show up to arrest Dushan. The crew will then gather at the hackerspace to celebrate their win, and cut a promo to their followers thanking them for their support, and DedSec's dedication to continue the good fight. The game comes to an end with one final message from DedSec.
You should probably listen to this.
DedSec. We stood together middle fingers held high. As Silicon Valley attacked our privacy, demanded our complacency, and violated our freedoms. We caught Bloom making backroom deals with each of the biggest tech giants. Companies already specialized to track and manipulate every aspect of our lives. Bloom thought they'd use us as a boogeyman to drive these companies to their CTOS. All that data was to be protected and controlled by one master program. But we didn't play fair. We shut down their CTOS for days. We exposed them one at a time, stripped their credibility, and prevented an unprecedented state of public control. Together, DedSec gave the untouchable Big Brother its first black eye. Bloom's man behind the megaphone, Dushan Nimmick, will spend the rest of his days in prison, thanks to our efforts. He was an opportunist, using his connections to exploit Bloom's system. They will scapegoat him, paint him as a rogue element, claim it was a singular random incident. But we won't let him off the hook so easily. We have demonstrated their weaknesses, both human and technological. With great power comes great vulnerability. Bloom and their sycophants now face an onslaught of legal action and government investigation. Faith in the CTOS is at an all-time low. We did this. We know the greed engine will never rest. And to that, we promise, neither will DedSec. We outnumber them. With every indiscretion, every scandal, and every scam, they add to our numbers. And we will be watching. DedSec has given our warning. Do what you will.
How much of this is hyperbole? Has it really gone global?
There are new DedSec cells popping up everywhere. The Middle East, South America, Europe. And not just them, we can't even keep up with all the new hacktivist groups.
All right. Make the call.
You sure?
Do it.
Not sure who those two voices are, but I'm assuming they're meant to set up the events of Watch Dogs Legion. And that was Watch Dogs 2. So what did I think? Well, despite sounding mostly negative during the latter half of the story, I really enjoyed my time with Watch Dogs 2. Marcus turned out to be a great lead, offering a fresh personality that made him easy to root for. And while I was initially worried DedSec would feel cringe or out of touch, they weren't nearly as bad as I expected. Each member has their own quirks and distinct personalities, but they're subdued enough that they don't become annoying. The real star, though, is the gameplay. The hacking mechanics are a huge improvement over the first game, letting you tackle objectives in multiple creative ways. Stealth and pacifist runs are actually viable now, and gunplay has been reworked to offer more of a challenge, forcing you to use hacking and shooting together instead of just relying on brute force. San Francisco is a fantastic open-world playground, packed with side missions, multiplayer content, and a level of freedom that keeps it from feeling like yet another generic Ubisoft map. The sandbox approach makes collecting pickups and completing objectives feel engaging, rather than just checking things off a to-do list. The biggest issue, though, is the story. While I appreciate that it actually engages with relevant themes like big tech surveillance and privacy invasion, it never really capitalizes on them in a meaningful way. The goofier tone and lighthearted characters often undermine the seriousness of the subject matter, making Bloom and the other tech giants feel more like Saturday morning cartoon villains than genuine threats to society. And while I get that the game didn't want to be overly preachy or grim, it half-heartedly sets up potential drama and social commentary, only to never follow through. There's no real sense of stakes, and the lack of a structured narrative makes the story feel like it's never truly building to a conclusion. It doesn't help that Dushan is an underwhelming antagonist too, failing to leave any real impact. Still, I can overlook the weak story because the game itself is so much fun. Not every game needs a deep or serious narrative. Sometimes you just want to turn off your brain and mess around in a world that lets you do whatever the hell you want. I've said it before in other videos, but great gameplay can easily make up for a bad or non-existent story. Hell, Borderlands 3 is one of the worst written games I've ever played, but the looter-shooter mechanics are so damn good that I still love playing it, with the dialogue muted and every cutscene skipped, of course. I know Watch Dogs 2 didn't make the best first impression when it was announced, but it's a genuinely good game. It's not preachy, DedSec is surprisingly tolerable, and there's plenty of content to keep you busy. Hot take, but I think it could have made for an interesting live service or multiplayer focused game. The core mechanics, hacking, shooting, customization, and a well-designed open world, laid the groundwork for something bigger. If Ubisoft had dropped the main story and leaned into the hackers versus hackers multiplayer setup, focusing on rival hacking groups and gangs, they might have actually had a decent online experience. Probably would have been better than what they ended up doing with Watch Dogs Legion. To sum it up, Watch Dogs 2 is a good sequel. It surpasses the first game in terms of gameplay, but its story is definitely weaker. I wasn't a fan of Watch Dogs 1's story, but at least it was a well-structured revenge story, with actual stakes and compelling villains. Watch Dogs 2's tone isn't as bad as I feared, but it still won't be for everyone. That said, if you give it a shot, I think you'll have a great time with it. And that's the video. Thanks for watching, folks. And special thanks to my channel members and patrons, including Alfred Correa, Augie Doggy, Bailey Morrison, Chicken D Samurai, Eric Lee, Miles Garrett, Skillfuse, SR Powa, Thunder Muffin, and Reckless Nerd. I'm keeping the outro short, so thanks for watching, folks. If you enjoyed the video, leave a like and comment down below. And if you're new to the channel, I'd love your support and if you subscribed. Hoping to cross the 100k subs this year and earn that silver plaque. I'm FuzzySlippers, and I'll see you later. Peace.